welcome back to the Scenario 7 podcast. My name is Sam, and as always, I'm joined by my lovely co-hosts. It's Josh Bacon and Joe Roberts. How are you two doing?
I'm doing good, thank you.
I'm doing well, thank you, Sam.
That's great to hear, as always. And today, we are reviewing the Monaco Grand Prix. Such an iconic track, and not a track that's full of overtaking. As Josh there points to the track on his wall for those on audio platforms who can't see it. But yeah, let's get straight into the race. First of all, actually, just talking generally, what did you guys think of it? Did you find it exciting? I mean, I doubt you did, but yeah, tell me your general thoughts of it.
Oh my, it was interesting, isn't the strategy? And then obviously I think I'll probably talk about this later, the Bossa incident, and then it died down and it was very, very boring. Yeah, it's just generally with the tracks and generations of the cars, it just makes the racing boring around here. And the only thing you can actually engage with is the strategy, which is, I think, probably the only interesting part of Monaco. And obviously, yeah, it was just a very, very boring race, which I probably said for the last 3 podcasts, but yeah.
Yeah, I look forward to Sam's uncle's comments on us always saying how we say it's a boring race each week, but I think it's expected around Monaco because there's not many overtaking chances. It's really narrow and the cars are getting wider. Yeah, the only interesting part of the races are the pit strategies, which definitely help some and not others. So apart from that, it was just everyone stayed in their position, so it was a bit dull, but yeah, it was still a good race to watch.
Yeah, certainly. And the few bits of drama there were, the director decided to cut away from them, as I'm sure Joe will bring up later. But yeah, let's start with a breakdown of. Let's start in quali. We've never done this before, but the qualifying here was very interesting. Of course, a lot of controversy. Guys, what would you make of Charles Leclerc putting the car on pole but then crashing? What were your thoughts on the whole controversy over qualifying?
I'll let Josh go first because I know he's got some big opinions about it.
When I first saw it, the first thing that came to my head was he's doing it on purpose because it's Monaco. He's crashed out. He's got like 4 minutes to go. There's going to be a red flag. And it's not going to continue. But then when the news kept coming out about how it could affect his gearbox and he could have to get a 5-place grid penalty or either not start, which obviously he didn't. I then started to rethink, saying he obviously didn't do it on purpose because he still wants to be the best chance of winning, so he wouldn't have broken his gearbox. But yeah, that first seeing, I was like, he's just ruined everyone else's chances of getting on pole because I think Bottas and Verstappen are on faster laps than his current pole time. So yeah, it was interesting, but it played out in Verstappen's hand anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I thought it was just a mistake. It reminded me very much of what Verstappen did, I think in 2018, where he just kissed the wall in free practice 3. And yeah, it was just a mistake from Leclerc pushing the boundaries, having to get that times because that time was going to get beaten. I think Bottas probably would have beaten it. I don't know about Verstappen. I haven't seen the times, but yeah, it was just unfortunate. And then I think they did fix the gearbox issue, but I think it was probably one of the sensors or even the engine that probably got a hit, or even the energy recovery system as well. So it was another something damaged the damage that wasn't the gearbox that the Ferrari just didn't check.
Yeah, sure. Josh, I'm not sure if you did after finding out he might get a penalty, because I remember when he didn't start the race, I'm pretty sure you put in the group chat we have, the cheat has DNF'd or something like that. So I think you were pretty pleased that Charles Leclerc wasn't starting the race. But yeah, we'll move on to.
No comment. No comment.
No comment. Brilliant. Nothing to say. But yeah, as you said before the race, Leclerc didn't start. He DNF because of a left drive shaft problem, and that meant that everyone went up a spot. I mean, I was personally gutted that Leclerc didn't start, because I was thinking it would have made Monaco so much more interesting, because Verstappen would have had to overtake, or Hamilton would have or it would just been so much more interesting race. But it's a shame it didn't happen, but at least it made the title fight more interesting. But yeah, the only real incident in the race was it was a incident with Mercedes. Valtteri Bottas, lap 31, pit stop issue as the wheel nut machined into the axle, causing him to DNF. What do you guys think about Bottas? I mean, it's how many pit issues does he need? I mean, I think the second or third one he's had this season alone.
I think, yeah, I think it's just unlucky. I think it's this time it wasn't down to ability. I think he had everything over Hamilton, even though you can't really overtake around Monaco. He had everything over his teammate. First time this season. I think he would have tried to undercut or overcut Verstappen, and I think he might have got him. So Bottas was on a very, very decent race. It just, his luck is not going his way, which ultimately at the end of the season, if he's getting beaten by, at the moment, the McLaren, and I think it's Perez is above him as well, his seat starts to look questionable. So for me, it was just very unlucky seeing that. It was kind of annoying because of the fact you couldn't see an interesting race between Verstappen and Bottas. But yeah.
Yeah, I felt really sorry for him. Seeing Hamilton come in the lap before and have no issues with his pit stop whatsoever, and then him coming in and just seeing that front right just not come off, and then obviously being explained what happened, and then DNFing. It was just, all in all, a bit disappointing for him and very, very unlucky. But it just keeps happening to him and not Hamilton, which is a bit, it can be looked at a little bit sketchy. But no, I'm only joking. But yeah, it's really sorry for him, because he was a lot, personally, he looked a lot better than Hamilton this weekend. He looked faster and more comfortable in the car. And like Joe said, I really think he would have put a fight to Verstappen and wouldn't have made it so easy for him. But yeah, it's just really unlucky for him and the team.
Yeah, I mean, Josh is throwing out all the controversial takes there this week. It turns out he's going after everyone, but
He's taking my job.
he really is. Joe, you're normally the one with the hot takes, but no, as you said, it's really unlucky for Bottas, because unlucky is a word that's been thrown around at Bottas for, including last season as well, just saying, and it was getting to a point where it was like, how long till it's not unlucky and it's just him. But this was an incident which was just, he couldn't have done anything about, and it was just very, very unfortunate. That was the only real incident in the race. I think at the end of the race, it was weird, because I looked back at the podium, and I really enjoyed the podium, because it was like Verstappen's friends with Norris, and then Norris is friends with Sainz, and then Sainz was at Toro Rosso with Verstappen. I thought it was a really cool podium, because they're all friends and it was a good laugh, especially having Sainz and Norris on the podium together. That was amazing. I know, Josh, you love that. But it was weird to look back, and in 2011, so 10 years before, the podium was Vettel, Alonso, Button, first in a Red Bull, second in a Ferrari, and third in a McLaren. And it's just so weird that history has repeated itself, and it kind of shows that this is the new generation. It makes me feel almost getting older, having watched this Verstappen, no, not Verstappen, having watched Vettel and Alonso and Button, and now this is the new generation. And it was quite an interesting one to reflect on, though Vettel and Alonso are still in the sport now. There's no Button, and Are you guys feeling like you're getting old now? We've got a new generation of racers.
Sam, don't repeat it. It's God. I think Josh probably understands that. I remember watching 2007 like Monaco Grand Prix and and then 2008 I remember very, very well. It just makes you feel very, very old. And obviously like even like the young people, even like people that are 16 or 18, they probably don't even remember 2008 or maybe not even 2010. It's amazing how, as you said, history has repeated itself. And I think Norris is like 21, I think.
He's our age. He's the same age as us, Joe.
Yeah, and then Carlos Sainz is like 25 or 26. And then Max is even like 24. It's amazing how young the grid, and it does show these drivers are the future of F1. And it's amazing not to see any of the like old guards there as well, like Hamilton and Bottas. I would consider even your favorite Ricardo, Sam. But yeah, it does make me feel old.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's weird to think how talented they are at such a young age. And obviously, I said Lando's mine and Joe age, and I think Yuki Tsunoda's younger than us, and he's in an F1 car. So it's great to see, and it's great to look forward to the next generation. But yeah, it does make us feel old after watching races back when Button was winning and all those bigger names that most people know now. But yeah, it's weird to see someone my age coming third around Monaco and driving that car. It's strange, but also fun to watch.
Yeah, that was his third podium at your age, and Josh, you're working in Argos, so hope that.
At least I've got a job.
That's true.
We're not going to talk about my.
I'm a podcaster, Josh. I know what you mean, but moving on to analysing how each team did this weekend. Mercedes and Red Bull, the first ones we'd talk about. Last week it was very much, or not last week, 2 weeks ago in Spain, it was very much Mercedes got their tactics right. They played a tactical masterclass. And this week is very much the other way around. How would you say these two teams fared up with Verstappen, Perez, Hamilton, Bottas?
I think Mercedes kind of had I wouldn't say a shocker, because I think it didn't help with qualifying for Hamilton and also Bottas, but it didn't help Hamilton with starting seventh or potentially it was sixth. But yeah, it's one of those things where I think Hamilton was kind of right to get bit moaning around that they should have kept him out longer, because they were going to be faster, I think, than the Aston Martin of Vettel, and I think it was the Alvataro of Gasly, and then obviously with Perez overtaking the whole lot of them, 3 cars basically just going doing the overcut, and then also Vettel as well doing the overcut as well on Gasly and Hamilton. That part of the strategy, I think they absolutely bottled it. But in Bottas, going back onto the Bottas, it was just completely unlucky, and they would have got second or even first. Going on to Red Bull, I think it was, I would say, business as usual. I think in terms of Monaco, they're usually very good around here. Perez did his job, I would say. He didn't do very well, but did his job. And then Max Verstappen, I think, stamped his authority as battling Hamilton for the championship.
Yeah, Judge pretty much said, there's not much really more you can say about Mercedes. It was just not the best weekend for them. Obviously unlucky with Bottas, because he was definitely the pace and he could have got points, but obviously the wheel happened. And then with Lewis, just didn't look on it this weekend. Couldn't really seem to get going with the car. So with them and the strategy wise, it just wasn't the greatest weekend. But with Red Bull, I think they nailed their strategy, keeping both cars out for longer, especially with Perez, who's known for time management. It was always going to work in their favour. Perez jumping 3 cars, which just showed him how good he was, because I think he was putting in quite quick laps when he was freed up to have the whole track to himself, pretty much. So yeah, it was a great strategy from Red Bull, and they definitely deserved the win and 4th place. I was a bit nervous when Perez was all over the back of Norris. I was putting in the group chat, I was like, I don't want to watch this, but yeah, it was difficult to overtake, and he kept having to fall back. So yeah, overall it was a good weekend, but I'm sure next 2 weeks in Baku, Mercedes will be back with a better strategy.
Yeah, you were putting that in the group chat, but I was the reassuring person saying, even though I love Perez, you can't overtake at Monaco. So I knew that Norris was always going to stay in front. But yeah, as you said, I think Mercedes had a bit of a nightmare with Bottas DNFing. That was really not ideal. And as you said, Hamilton wasn't really on it this weekend. Admittedly, he was just about to go onto a hot lap in qualifying when it was red flagged. So it was really unfortunate, as he could have started nearer the front, be overtaking so hard, and the pit strategy just didn't work. Meanwhile, it's completely different to Spain last week, where this time Red Bull strategy was awesome. Verstappen didn't put a foot wrong. He was fantastic. Even on Saturday, he was purple, had 2 purple sectors before it was red flagged off, so was going to go pole. So he didn't put a foot wrong all weekend. And Perez, who was about to go onto a lap like Hamilton was when it was red flagged, having to start 8th, did very well. Him and tyres go hand in hand. He gets the most out of the tyres. He can stretch them to unethical lengths. I mean, it's ridiculous how long he can stretch those tyres, and he deserved that 4th, did very well. Just quickly, there's a lot of controversy between Mercedes and Red Bull at the moment, between rear wings and front wings. And I just wanted to get your take on it going into Baku next race. And Toto Wolff said that they're going to talk to the FIA, and if not, they're going to go to a higher board about it. What are your guys' take on it? Because Mercedes think that the rear wing moves too much.
Josh, do you want to do that?
Yeah,
because I've got a quite strong opinion.
I thought you would do. I'm the complete opposite. I haven't really looked it up that much, or as in known too much what's going on, but I've seen the images and the videos. I think the Red Bull wing, it does move quite a lot compared to others. So I can see why people are complaining and people think it's dodgy, but I'm not sure if that's just to do with the amount of downforces on the car and how fast they're going. It's just going to naturally move, but it might be illegal, like you said. But I haven't got an opinion on it because I haven't really looked it up. So I'll let Joe hand over for this one.
yeah. I think they should ban that flex. I do agree with Toto Wolff. If you look at past years when that has been happening with, for example, like Ferrari, I remember when they had front wing flexing, that was pretty like dangerous. And you do gain speed by that happening, and it kind of it gets to a point when that becomes advantage. Like, for example, like you're going to get all the teams doing it. As an example, like that happened with the F Duck in 2010, or I can't remember the time when that happened. As in, every team would do it, and then the advantage will. I personally just think that you shouldn't have that much flex on a wing, because it defeats. I don't know. It defeats the point of having. What I'm trying to say, yeah, it doesn't feel right in having that. It's quite a big flex. It's quite hard to explain without having a video, but it's quite hard. It's quite big flex on that rear and front wing, which ultimately I don't think should be happening. I think ultimately it's going to help them around Baku, so I think that should that they should fix it for that, and they got 2 weeks to do that.
Yeah, I mean, Toto Wolff and Christian Horner are always going to do anything that can get them the slightest advantage, because especially this year, as it's so close between Mercedes and Red Bull, who's better, and it's definitely track dependent at the moment about whose car is best. I mean, I go back to last year with Mercedes introducing DAS, and Christian Horner would not stop complaining about it, making sure, but nothing came of it. But this time, Mercedes, who I feel are looking a bit under pressure from Red Bull and feel quite threatened by them, are going to do anything. If that can get them a points penalty or anything, they'll do it. And it'll be interesting to see what the FIA say, or if all the higher boards. But yeah, certainly a interesting talking point. Moving on to McLaren versus Ferrari, the two teams, both teams got a person on the podium, and both teams had someone who underperformed or just didn't make it to the grid. How would you assess these two teams over the weekend?
I think they'll be pleased. I think overall they'll be pleased. Obviously, they'll have two sides of the garage with contrasting emotions. Obviously, with Leclerc not starting, and then Danny Rick just still not looking comfortable in that car. I don't know if it's an excuse now, if it is actually him getting used to that car, because I think he said he had a conversation with Carlos, and apparently he said that something about it's a weird car to drive or something like that. So it's different, very different to the Renault, obviously. But yeah, I think they can both be happy with the points that they got overall. But yeah, there's still room to improve, and they can still gain more by obviously actually starting a race. I think it was a weird decision not to change the gearbox. I think because if you're not 100% sure on if it's gonna work or not, I know it's gonna drop to sixth, but it's better to start sixth than not start at all. So I think they made a slight mistake there, but then I think Carlos made up for it by coming P2. And then McLaren, Launo is just carrying on his great performances and getting another podium. And then I'm sure Ricciardo will get there eventually. That's why they signed him. They know what he's like. But I think they'll both be pleased.
Yeah, I think Sam's going to be hoping Ricciardo's performance, or he's going to, every previous comments he's made about Ricciardo is going to backfire in his face. And when we do a season review, probably. Yeah, I thought. Yeah, again, I was Josh. I was surprised that they didn't change the gearbox. Even if they were confident, I probably would have changed it. But I expect it wasn't the gearbox that was the problem to the grid. Yeah, with McLaren, I think it's just business as usual for Lando Norris, and then they continue the woes for Daniel Ricciardo. Again, Josh probably said it is something. I think he's not very happy in that car, and I think McLaren will sort it out. And as Josh said, McLaren know what they're going to get out of Ricciardo. So they're just going to wait and time. And I think they signed a 3-year deal with Ricciardo. I can't remember, but and then Sainz and Ferrari, and probably the first praise of the season, as Sam is now smiling for the audio viewers. Yeah, Ferrari did a fantastic job. Their car looked very, very quick, and again, I'm surprised by it, but they looked like they're matching McLaren at the moment, and McLaren need to find some pace, or they risk losing P3, and it just be the same free constructor order for next season.
Yeah, I disagree about Leclerc. I mean, the issue wasn't a gearbox issue in the end, despite what people first thought. So, admittedly, if they had changed the gearbox, I still think that it still would have failed. As you said about Ricciardo, I have this season predicted him very highly, and I did in the preview say he was going to get a podium. And admittedly, that didn't come to fruition. As my predictions for this race weren't the best. As I don't want to talk about what I said about Aston Martin, but yeah, Ricciardo, I back him. I really like Ricciardo, but he's really struggling this season. He got lapped, which is probably a real low point of his McLaren career. But he'll come good next season. I'm now pinning hopes on next season because he's really struggling in this car this season. Hopefully he will get it together. But yeah, Norris is head and shoulders above him at the moment. He's driving like a madman. He's unbelievable. Fourth to third, had a really excellent weekend. He didn't think he was going to get a podium, but he drove his socks off, even when under pressure from Perez, and he thought he was having tyre issues or issues with grip. He still kept it in front and was still lapping quicker at the end, which was really impressive. Moving on to Ferrari, I've discussed a bit about Charles Leclerc. Really, really unlucky to not start. And Carlos Sainz, his teammate, he's been improving slowly. He's been getting used to the car, and I think he's adapted to the car very quickly. And this is a big sign of that. He's starting third, finishing second. I mean, second place in Monaco. What an achievement for him in a car that I remember Joe saying was going to do terribly this year. I mean, you're recalling my pre-season prediction, so I'm recalling yours. You slated the Ferrari, so it's going to be rubbish. But the Ferrari is a very quick car, very suited to Monaco. And I was listening to someone before quali saying, I reckon that Leclerc could put it on pole, which is weird, bear in mind that actually happens. But yeah, the Ferrari was brilliant around this track. Really unlucky with Leclerc, but Sainz was excellent. Now moving on to the midfield battle, AlphaTauri, Alpine, Aston Martin. I said Aston Martin were going to fail this weekend and their woe was going to continue, but both drivers actually did very well. How are you assessing this battle between the three teams?
What between
AlphaTauri, Alpine, and Aston Martin?
I think Aston Martin probably had the best weekend of the, I would say, midfield, just due to the fact I think they got their strategy perfectly spot on with Vettel doing the overcut, and then Stroll, I think, came 10th, did he? Or
8th?
8th, and went on Hard's very long run, then got the gap, and then I think, yes, the strategy worked for them. AlphaTauri, Gasly, I think, be a bit gutted not to get P5, I think it was. And then the Alpines, let's say they were slower than the Alfa Romeos, and they just had a bit of a shocker. I think they didn't get any points, if I can remember. I think Ocon, yeah. But overall, I think they didn't have the best of weekends. But yeah, it looks like the midfield is just going to depend on track, and depending on how well they do on their dependent track, I think that will decide what constructed position they'll be at the end of the season.
Yeah, unlike Sam, my predictions from the preview were pretty much spot on. I said that Vettel would get in his points because of experience, and he got P5 thanks to an amazing strategy call from his team. And obviously, Stroll also having a really long stint on the hards definitely helped him to get P8. And I also predicted Alpine to struggle again this weekend, and they did, with Alonso, I think, qualifying P17th and not really getting any higher than that. And obviously Ocon got points, 9th, which is better than nothing, but still not the best weekend for them. And AlphaTauri, I think Gasly said after the race he was happy because it was his best race result this season, but he was a bit surprised at coming out behind Vettel. So he said he was going to go talk to the team about that. But I still think they had a strong weekend. I think Tsunoda, he couldn't really do much better because it was his first ever time around Monaco. So to be able to finish is probably a good start for him. But he's difficult to overtake, so he wasn't going to climb the field after his qualifying. But yeah, Aston Martin definitely had the best weekend out of the three, which definitely helps them with the fight with those teams as well, in the constructors. So we'll see if it carries on next week. 2 weeks away in Baku. But yeah, I think Aston Martin had the best weekend.
Yeah, I agree. I know I tipped them to fail, but Aston Martin's strategists can take their hats off this weekend. I mean, I take my hat off to you. I mean, that was really brilliant strategy. Vettel finishing fifth is very impressive. He's really struggled this season, had 0 points, and to get fifth as your first points finish is impressive. And Stroll is all never really talked about, but 8th place is very good for him. So yeah, I agree. Aston Martin completely won this battle. In the Alpha Tauri, Gasly in 6th is solid. Again, the strategy was slightly worse than Aston Martin to the fact that Vettel came out in front. But I mean, Vettel came out in front of Hamilton, so hats off to them. They timed that brilliantly. But yeah, 6th place for Gasly, very impressive, and he's definitely a driver who's really exciting. I say this every week, but he's going to make it to the top and will be challenging for podiums. Sorry, Joe's internet cut out there, so there's probably a dodgy cut for those audio listeners of wondering why I'm going to repeat myself. But yeah, as I was from Alpha Tauri, Gasly, really impressive. Tsunoda, as Josh said, first time around Monaco as an F1 driver, to finish is decent. And as a rookie, he's not done too bad. He's still getting used to the car. 16th place isn't great, but it's not the worst finish. Then moving on to Alpine, Ocon 10th to 9th, very solid. Ocon's really getting used to that car, and I do think he will take that Mercedes seat with Russell when Hamilton and Bottas leave. And Alonso 16th to 13th couldn't really do much more because he can't overtake on this track. But yeah, pretty solid. Talking about Aston Martin and when Gasly came out of the pits, the director has come under a lot of stick with the deciding to show a replay of Lance Stroll taking some airtime rather than some potential overtaking. And I know, Joe, you're quite annoyed by that. What do you think about that piece of direction?
Yeah, not from going over the extreme language of YouTube. Yeah, it was. Yeah, for some reason, I remember looking on Twitter that the Monaco Grand Prix, I think it's the only Grand Prix that has directed by people in Monaco, which I don't understand why, because it's not people that actually know F1 and that can actually provide any decent footage of the races. And it was like four and 5 times they cut out of potential excitement of like Vettel and Hamilton. They went from, I remember cutting from a potential move on one of the drivers, and then suddenly they cut into the pits with Perez. It just didn't really make any sense of how these people do things, and it's just, for me, it shouldn't be in the hands of a person that just person that's probably only directed TV, and should be somebody who's done it consistently in the hands of the F1 directors, not a person that's in Monaco that knows probably nothing about F1 and directing F1. So that's my mini rant out the way. Josh, do you want to say?
I have nothing to add. Absolutely nothing.
Fair enough. Yeah, I knew you weren't happy, but yeah, that was very frustrating. I mean, Joe's calling for people's jobs here, so that's quite outrageous.
Yes, I am.
But fair enough. It was definitely frustrating. Moving on to, I don't really know where to class Alfa Romeo because they're not really in a midfield battle and they're not in the bottom 2 battle. So let's just talk about just Alfa Romeo. They're in a league of their own. They're just plotting along. Decent weekend for them. Talk to me about Giovinazzi and Raikkonen as their team as a whole over the weekend.
Yeah, I think they had a solid weekend, to be fair. Getting Giovinazzi sneaking into Q3 on Saturday was an amazing achievement. And it was just great to see someone different up there. And then him staying there and finishing P10 for the race as well, and getting a point was just a great race from him. And I'm not sure where Raikkonen qualified, but he finished
13th.
P11, 13th. Okay, he finished P11th, one behind his teammate. So I think he'll be slightly disappointed that he didn't get points, but I think overall the team did a good job, and they'll be happy with P10 and P11.
Yeah, I think the Alfa Romeos did a very good job, especially Raikkonen jumping a Ricardo, Sam's man on the start of the grid, and basically destroyed his race and hopes for points. Alfa Romeo at the moment are very, even though I thought they'd be second just due to the fact that from testing the Ferrari engine looked very poor. I think they'll be solid P3, and if they continue how they're doing, they could potentially target Alpha Tauri for not Alpha Tauri, the Alpines for their I don't know how for their place in the constructors, or even maybe push Alpha Tauri if they can continue, even though they have a good car, continue to put out very poor results.
Yeah, it's very frustrating because one of the points I'd written down and then didn't mention in my preview. I mean, everyone's going to go, yeah, Josh, I know is going to go, oh, of course you did. But I was going to say that I thought that Giovinazzi would get to Q3, and he did. Yeah. No,
You're saying this now, are you?
I promise you. You can ask my mate Archie. I was so do about that. But yeah, I thought he was going to get to Q3, but I didn't mention it, and now I'm really gutted because he did get through to Q3, and he had a great weekend, Giovinazzi. He finished 10th in the end because despite finishing 10th in qualifying, he started 9th because of Leclerc. But yeah, finishing 10th in the points, I think it's the first point for Alfa Romeo this season, which is great, and they've deserved more to be honest. They've been narrowly close. I mean, his teammate Raikkonen finishing 11th was just behind him, and the Alfa Romeo, as Joe said, I'm not sure if they'll be pushing that midfield battle, but I think they'll be clear of Williams and Haas, who will have no points probably at the end of the season. We are talking about these two heavyweights at the top, or sorry, at the bottom, Williams and Haas. What do you make of their weekends? I mean, Haas 3 laps behind. I mean, that's great for them, wasn't it? Really impressive. And then Williams are just kind of there.
It's getting to the point where Haas is kind of a joke. As I described them to be a slower than an F2 car, I think they're getting to the point where they are an F2 car. As in, yeah, it's the only positive side is that Mazepin out, I think, got, I think 18th it was, or I don't know.
17th.
Got in front of Mick Schumacher. But apart from that, Williams are just so far ahead of Haas, as in that they're in a league of their own, and Haas are just being at the moment Haas.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. This weekend, it was just pointless having both those teams here, to be honest. They finished the bottom 4 cars, and, well, maybe not quite, but it was it was not the best weekend for both of them. Obviously, like you said, the Haas is finishing 3 laps behind any other car. It's ridiculous. But yeah, I predicted Mazepin to out-qualify his teammate, and it was helped by the fact that Schumacher didn't even get to compete in qualifying, but he still beat him in the race as well. So another tick of the preview. But then with the Williams, it was just I don't think they suit these type of tracks. They struggled in the last sector at Spain as well. So yeah, there's more to come for them in other races, hopefully. But with this race, it's just write it off, forget about it, and move on.
Yeah, I mean, what tracks do they suit? I mean, that's the question. But yeah, they were Williams and Haas were separated by Tsunoda in 16th. But yeah, Williams, Russell from 14th to 14th. It's like, yeah, great. nothing really happened with him. Despite being a great driver, he really just couldn't do anything. And Latifi, 17th to 15th, that was only helped by a DNF, I think. And yeah, again, pretty non-existent race and got like zero coverage apart from when he was being lapped. And then with the Haas, Schumacher last makes a nice change. It's nice for them to swap around for this weekend. Mazepin, yeah, well done, mate. He didn't finish last from the cars that actually finished, showing improvement. And before the end of the season, he'll be really pushing for that potential. He might be pushing Latifi. Who knows? It might be quite adventurous. But yeah, Haas we're gonna we slate Haas every week. They're not great, and there's probably a positive that I'm trying to find or try and spin off. Mazepin's done better than Schumacher. That's the only positive I can find of it. And that's good, I guess, despite not getting any points. And
Didn't spin.
Yeah, there you go. Mazepin didn't live up to his nickname, but yeah, not great by Haas, and Williams just there to make up the numbers as well. But yeah, moving on to driver of the day. Who do you guys have as the driver who was best over the weekend or on the race day? Up to you.
I'd probably start with mine because it's probably the most funniest one. I'm going to go for Mazepin. I'll probably go for a serious one after this one. Yeah, as in he had a brilliant practice sessions. I don't think he binned it, which I thought he would. He did very well with yellow flags and didn't get any complaints for any drivers. It was a very solid performance, and also he beat his teammate as well. 3 laps down, that's a bit of a negative, but he gained 2 positions. Actually, no, he gained 4 positions, I think. Or because of gained 3 because of the fact that Bottas and Leclerc didn't finish and obviously beat his teammate. So it's a very solid job. Joking aside, I think for me it's going to be science for me. I think he did very well. He's shown he is a Ferrari driver and pushing Leclerc all the way. And had a very impressive P2 and probably could have got pole during qualifying.
Well, I've got to mention my boy Lando, obviously. He's not my driver of the day, but he did a solid race and obviously got another podium, which is great. But my driver of the day and probably of the weekend is Vettel. Obviously getting into Q3 for qualifying and then finishing P5, which is probably more down to his strategist than him, but he was still having to drive that car well around the track and keep other cars behind him and not bin it himself. So my driver of the day was Vettel.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, it would be team tactician of the day because it was all to do with tactics. But yeah, if it was them, whoever came up with the Vettel strategy, I'd raise a glass to him. But yeah, I'm giving my driver of the day to my boy Sergio Perez. I'm not biased, I promise. Him starting low down in the order does help this because he always gains places because the car's too quick. So basically, every time he qualifies pretty poorly, it gives me an excuse to put him as driver of the day because he goes up places. Realistically, I would have chosen Vettel, but I don't want. I want to be different to Josh, who has put Vettel. But yeah, starting 8th to 4th, very impressive. He's put Red Bull. He's helped Verstappen and Christian Horner putting Red Bull first in the constructors, but I think it's a point. He made the tyres last. He's best at tyre management on the grid up there with Hamilton and Raikkonen. He almost caught Norris, and if there was a place to overtake on this track, then he probably would have done, but there's not, so not ideal. And yeah, massive result for Red Bull, and Sergio Perez, Checo Perez, is my driver of the day. What a man. But yeah, Joe, have you got something to say?
Can I ask you a question about it? So you putting driver of the day to a man who just done very poor in qualifying for his car as driver of the day?
I'm giving my driver of the day to someone who's about to go on a hot lap until Leclerc got a red flag in qualifying and would have 100% put it on pole. I've no doubt in my mind about it that he was going to put it on pole.
So who's also been struggling the whole entire week as well?
No, 100% not. Completely disagree. Don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, I think that wraps up the podcast. Checo Perez is the best driver of the weekend and of the year and of all time. We'll see you again in 2 weeks for Baku, Azerbaijan, where we'll bring you a preview and a review of the race, where I'm sure my boy Checo Perez will do well there and win the race. Make sure you clip that for when he does. But yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening on audio platforms. And yeah, we'll see you in 2 weeks. But yeah, thank you for coming.